Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lotus Lindley, Art of Sacred Embodiment. I am Lotus, and I just wanted to jump on here and do a quick video about our healing work or our energetic resolution work, working with the shadow, integrating inner child, scattered aspects of ourselves, however we want to work with it, form it, call it, and at different stages that we may be experiencing this. So as we've talked about in other videos, and definitely in the video that I did on shadow work and the new paradigm, right? From the old to the new paradigm. And in that video, I talked about that, we're kind of moving away from this deep dig approach to our wounds, right? That we don't really have to spend as much time anymore digging, reliving, surfacing trauma. And that being said, as I mentioned in the past video, that if you haven't even started this work, or if you're just starting it, it may seem like you still need to do a little bit of that deepening, okay? And it might still take a little bit longer, and it may not be quite as efficient as what I'm going to talk about here, because everything is in stages and phases, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit, because I've had like probably 3 or 4 conversations about this in the last week or two, about how do we know when we have resolved an issue? How do we know when we have healed and integrated past wounding, or those imprints, right, that have been made in any time during the past based on any kind of perceived, to whatever degree, right, because our own perceptions are going to be the measure of what feels like trauma. So we're not judging one trauma or another, because it's going to be a very personal experience. So how do we know when we're done with it? So first of all, I just want to say we have to first understand it, right? So we have to have a cognitive relationship with the dynamic going on in our life as a result of any sort of trauma or wounding, or those points of separation. We need to understand how that dynamic is playing out as a motivating force in our choices and behaviors. And ideally, we want to understand what that root is, right? Where it started. And the more that we can go back to that root and have a clear, conscious connection to that, it becomes easier to recognize what the truth is versus this long story that we've been telling ourselves based on a false truth, okay? So cognitive therapy is perfect for this, right? Because we have to first gain that understanding. So then the next level that we need to get to is the energetic piece, right? So oftentimes we have an intellectual understanding, and if we haven't neutralized the energetic pattern within our body and our subtle bodies, it's going to be really hard to live completely free from that event or that thread of experiences that even maybe affirmed and confirmed that false truth, right? Because what we believe tends to be our lenses of perception, whether they're accurate or not, and will be what we perhaps project on other people, and also then attract to us. And that attraction to us is not as any kind of form of punishment, right, by the universe, but it is for us to look deeper, right? We're constantly getting these opportunities to be free. to be free on every level of where we have been entrapped by our own consciousness, perceptions, beliefs, any of that. So when we're doing shadow work, part of the difference in just understanding it consciously from the intellect is that we're going down and we are unwinding and repatterning the system, okay, your energy system / your consciousness. So one of the questions was, well, so I had somebody who upon broaching the subject, this was really what inspired part of this. In broaching the subject, one of the things that somebody had mentioned was that she didn't want to talk about it because when she talked about it, it re-traumatized her system. And I totally got that because, you know, I have one thing in particular that I'm constantly kind of working with, but when it comes up, you know, I haven't quite resolved the energetics of it. And so it feels like it stirs everything up energetically within my being, right? So that is one indication that even if we have worked to have an intellectual understanding, if it continues to stir the pot and make things uncomfortable, it hasn't been resolved yet. It hasn't been cleared. It hasn't been healed. So that's an indication that you still need to do more of the energy resolution piece of this. And ideally, how we know when it's clear is that imprint, right? So what we're looking at is any event that has happened that gets trapped in our chakra system, in our subtle bodies, in our body, physical body, that imprint has formed at a time of contact, right? Of some energy that came in that felt very painful, very scary, and then perhaps it was even repeated a number of times, right? So we have imprint that then is like compounded and embossed, is how I've been talking about it lately. So that embossed imprint can be challenging, right? Because it's in there and it feels like it's a part of us. So what we need to do is we have to go to the root of it. Part of it is understanding that we do have to travel to it consciously and intellectually, and find what the story is, what the source is, what the fear, what the pain is. And I don't want to say re-experience it, but because I don't think we need to really go in as deep as we used to, but we do still need to be made conscious of that emotional component and then how to resolve it. And it can happen very quickly. It can happen within just a couple times. It does require that we need to be really willing and ready to let go of that part of ourselves. We have to be ready to change our story. We have to be ready to look at who we would be if we no longer held that belief about ourselves. And then what that means that we would have to face, right? And I don't necessarily mean face in a negative way, because oftentimes there's great freedom, but if we have felt entrapped and kind of enslaved and captive for a long time, even great freedom can be frightening, right? Like there's that story about a bird that's held in captivity, and when that door is finally left open to fly free, the bird stays within the cage, okay? Because it's familiar, it feels safe, even though it is in captivity. So these are different levels that we as well go through with different aspects of ourselves. So once we start identifying that, moving through it, Eventually, ideally, how will we know? We will be neutral. Okay, at the very least, we will be neutral when the topic is broached, when we have memories connected with any part of that story or belief. And oftentimes that old belief won't even make sense anymore, right? So we're going at best for neutralization, meaning that that energy imprint has been cleared. It's wiped clean. It's a clean slate. Now, ideally, right, we would move then to the next level of really being able to feel a sense of deep gratitude for the experience, for whatever wisdom that we gleaned from it. Perhaps if it involved other people, we would be able to recognize that even though we were harmed in some way or felt that we were harmed in some way, that we get to the point to where we no longer harbor fear or resentment, and maybe we even get to having gratitude, appreciation, and a sense of love for them. A very, maybe distant and detached love, but nonetheless, we're operating then from a higher frequency. So neutral is great, but ideally we want to get to gratitude, appreciation, honoring whatever the experience is for the teaching that it imparted to us for our opportunity for awakening. So I'm just going to leave it at that. There's always, so much more to be said. So what I invite you to do is take what resonates with you, as with everything that I talk about, and probably anybody else, and then leave the rest. And allow yourself some time to really go back and look at those things that trigger you. Look at what is left and how can you get to at least neutral, at best a sense of gratitude, appreciation, and deep freedom from that, and setting other people free as well from the ties that had been created through whatever traumatic or painful or wounding experience that you had carried for a period of time. So that's it. Very short and sweet today. So I hope everyone is doing well. I invite you to check out my website, lotuslindley.net. Visit me on Facebook. And, I have blog posts that talk about many of these different topics as well. And please subscribe to the video channel, because then you will see when I do other videos and if those topics resonate with you. All right, take care. Thank you so much. Bye.